So moving along to our guest speakers, I'd like to call Melhat Rafi first because she arrived first at the meeting. Are you ready?
I am ready. Thank you.
Yes, and Lynette is going to time you for 5 minutes, and then we'll have 2 minutes of questions.
I'm timing, right, Margie?
Yes.
Okay, hold on 1 second, Malhat.
You got it.
Come on, timer. Here we go. Find it on the phone. And whenever you're ready, I'll start.
All right. Well, good evening, Democrats. Thank you so much for inviting me. My name is Mel. For those who don't know me, some of you do, but for those who don't know me, my name is Melahat Rafi. My pronouns are she, her. I'm a 2-term DNC member, former executive director of the Democratic Party of Orange County, and a candidate to be your next CDP secretary. And by day now, I'm a campaign consultant, one of the very few women of color in the consulting space. Just last cycle, my firm won 9 out of the 10 races we worked on, focusing on getting women, specifically women of color, members of the LGBTQ and disability communities elected to local office. We've learned that if you're not at the table, you're probably on the menu. And that's why I work on these local races to make sure we have diversity at the local level. Are you getting feedback? Okay. Sorry. I also know what it means to fight for my life. I came to this country as a refugee when I was 5 years old. My parents sold everything they had, paid smugglers, and we went from Iran to multiple countries before we made it to the United States with political asylum. And when they got here, they had 3 kids, me being the oldest, under the age of 6, 2 suitcases, and $500. Their sacrifices is what really motivates everything I do in my life. How I raise my amazing little boy, Keon, as a single mom, how I run my small businesses, and how I act as a DNC member representing this great state. And as a DNC member, I cast my ballot for Senator Bernie Sanders, who won the primary of this great state, and I fought hard to try to get a climate debate during the primary. I've been on the Rules Committee for about a dozen years as well, and what I've been able to do there during my tenure is equalize the playing field between challengers and incumbents by bringing the threshold down for the challengers as well, and also increasing the number of grassroots level involvement of the ADEMs. I know our last ADEMs wasn't ideal by any stretch of the imagination, but had it been done without COVID, we would have had, I believe, a smoother ride since we had worked for years on making it better. Now, the traditional roles of the secretary are pretty much handled by the CDP staff, the communication with the delegates, membership notes, and so on and so forth. I think this role can be turned into your communicator in chief, someone who's making sure that activists and delegates have the information they need to combat the misinformation. And that's going to be critical in beating back this recall. I'm not one of those folks who doesn't think it's going to qualify. I live in Orange County. I got Mussolini signs all over the place. So I'm telling you, when this thing qualifies together, if you have the information that you need, if you know how to amplify the right talking points, have access to local media points, we can beat back this recall. Now, I think it's really important that we start training our bench and building our bench, because in the next 4 to 6 years, 60% of the Democrats in the state legislature will be termed out. You need battle-tested Democrats at the local level to fill those seats, but you also need to make sure they have the infrastructure they need. I think the CDP needs to expand their training to make sure that you have more Melahats in the world, more campaign managers, more finance directors, more volunteer directors, to make sure that those candidates that are running have the infrastructure they need. Now, I do believe in shared governance. That's the hot topic of this entire election cycle, I feel. I run for DNC and other positions, and this is what seems to be the thing everyone wants to talk about. I'll tell you the plan that I've come up with after speaking to folks up and down the state. I believe that we should be running our state party like we do with the Central Committee. Your chair, Margie, does not have authority to do everything on her own. She has to work with her executive officers and her executive board. My model would be to do that, expand the voting rights to all the 5 officers, and bring in the regional directors, making sure that the people who do the toughest job with the least thanks in this party have a voice at that table. We should have gone to the regional directors more when we were planning ADEMs. We need to include the regional directors more. So that's my vision. I hope that you join SCIU 2015, Unite Here Local 11, UFCW 324, California Young Democrats, Ventura, Santa Barbara, San Diego Central Committees, 15 of the 20 regional directors, 10 caucus chairs, and delegates all over the state in supporting our campaign. I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
You have had a minute and a half left, so I'm not sure you knocked it down. We usually give 2 minutes for Q&A, so we'll give you 3 minutes for Q&A. Is that right, Margie?
That's right.
Okay. Whenever,
The vice chairs are going to ask the question.
okay, thank you.
Does
I
anyone have a
see
question?
no hands. I see no hands nor questions in the chat.
Well,
Teresa Cruz from my team put the information in the chat. I hope that you reach out if you have any questions. I'm going to do my best to call anybody that, all the delegates. So I hope I can earn your support. Oh, there's a question. Here we go. Here we go. I have read DeRocca's proposal. I think that it's great that he's the one that started this conversation in so many ways. But like I said, the proposal that I bring forth is instead of reinventing the wheel, follow the models that have been working in the 58 counties in the state. That way, again, it's not about the person, but it's about the positions. And I think that the regional director should be at the table. That's what I'm proposing. But yeah, DeRocca and I have had a lot of conversations about his proposal, and I'm glad that he brought it forward. We would not be having these conversations had it not been for DeRocca bringing this forward.
There's a question from our information officer. What would you do to keep the engagement with local Democrats in the ADEM process?
Well, I think communication is key, making sure that, I'll tell you, as a candidate running in this particular race, we didn't know about the timelines soon enough, when to prepare our videos, when to prepare our this and that, and so on and so forth. I think it's critical that as soon as we built the infrastructure for whatever we're doing, we're communicating that with the delegates. I feel like when people have more time and more information, that's really what transparency is. I think transparency is key. As the largest Democratic Party in the nation, we can be a role model for transparency. And I promise you this, as a two-term DNC member, we are so much better at the state level than we are at the national level, but we have lots of room to grow. Take it, I'll take it.
There's another question for you, Miller.
Yeah,
Do you
just
electronic
if I
voting works?
Tiffany.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So just to clarify, I meant for the way our ADEMs can engage with the Democratic voters, because in this past election, we were able to reach out to them and make ask them to get the ballots and that kind of thing. And so I think it was one of the first times where it wasn't one of these, you had to know the secret knock to go and vote in the ADEM election.
Right. No, I actually wish we had access to the voter file, because if you were going to be doing this in person, you would have had access to people that were in that room volunteering that day or being part of it. I wish that we had access to the voter file so that people could have campaigned a little bit more. I think, the question about I think engage, look, at the end of the day, let me explain this. When I say I want to be communicator in chief, it's not just with people that are on this call. It's not just with ADEMs. I want to go beyond that. I want to be able to make sure that every Democrat, every Green Party person, everybody who's leaning on our side with the recall has the information that they need to fight that misinformation. So it's about making sure we're in their inboxes. It's about making sure we're in their Instagram stories. It's about making sure kids are taking a shower, it's walking around naked in the background. It's about making sure that we're on their TikTok feeds and communicating with them. And honestly, I think it's really hard to sell the Democratic Party, if I'm being honest, since we've got every house in Sacramento. We've got the super majorities in both houses, but you know what we don't have? We don't have universal broadband. We don't have universal health care. We don't have tuition-free community colleges.
That's the time, but go ahead and finish.
Okay, once we move forward with some of these progressive ideas, we will solve the problem that we have about engagement. We will solve our low dollar donor problem because we're producing. So thank you so much for putting up with me and my kid and everything. I appreciate you guys giving me the opportunity.
That was time.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. Well, thank you for coming. And
thanks. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Thank you.
So I'm getting a message that David is having problems.
Yeah, and G. Anthony's also trying to get in too.
And
I'm here.
Jenny here, Jenny Bach.
I'm here.
Okay, well, let's hear from you.
Okay, my apologies that I'm not there visibly in person. Some technical issues, and this is the only way that I could get in. So my apologies to all of you. And Good evening. My name is David Campos. I am chair of the San Francisco Democratic Party, and I am running to be the non-female chair of the California Democratic Party. And I'm not going to be able to stay the whole time because there are 3 different meetings happening at once. But I wanted to just say that I am running.
David, this is
Yes.
the timer. And I
Okay.
didn't know you had started, so we were not clear.
Oh,
You
okay.
get 5 minutes, and then if you have time left over, you get that time goes to your Q&A. So
Okay.
1 second, and I'm going to start you. Okay, go. Continue.
Thank you very much. And I'm going to take a couple of minutes, and then I'm going to turn it over to my campaign manager, Jackie Prager, who's going to stay on for the remainder of the time. And I apologize. I don't mean any disrespect by leaving early, but there are 3 different meetings that are happening at once, including a meeting that I'm running in San Francisco. But I simply want to say that I am running for this position because for me, my involvement as a Democratic Party activist is very personal. I came here as an undocumented child, and the Democratic Party was the only party that spoke about people like me and my parents with dignity and respect. And I've been a Democrat ever since I could legalize my status and vote. I've dedicated my life to public service. I got a law degree because lawyers were the people that help people like me. And over the last few years, I've been general counsel to the public school system in San Francisco. I've served as a San Francisco supervisor. I've been chair of the San Francisco Democratic Party. I was a county administrator in Santa Clara after I left the Board of Supervisors after being termed out. And in everything that I have done, my life has been about results for people and making the lives of working people better. I passed healthcare, universal healthcare in San Francisco before the Affordable Care Act was a reality. And as chair, I've been a very active chair. And I will leave you with this. I am a Bernie Sanders Democrat who has been able to work with people from across the political spectrum because they know what I can do. And that's why people like Nancy Pelosi, Tony Atkins, your own Senator Bill Dodd, the LA Democratic Party, San Francisco Democratic Party, the Ventura Democratic Party, San Diego Democratic Party are supporting my candidacy. And with that, I'll turn it over to Jackie Prager. One of the things that I'm always proud of is to bring young people, especially young women of color, into this process. And so Jackie will speak for me for the remainder of the time. Thank you.
Jackie, you have 3 minutes left.
Hello. I'm happy to field any questions that anyone might have for David that I can hopefully respond to. David is my chair. I live in San Francisco, so I have a good amount of background on him, and I hope that I can answer some of your questions.
At the time, there are no questions in the chat.
Great. Would it be beneficial to tell you more about David, or?
Well, you have 2 minutes to kind of pump him up if you want to.
All right. Sounds good. Yeah, David, he's wonderful. Obviously, I'm his campaign manager, so I have very high opinions of him. But as a young person living in San Francisco, he really has done a lot for our constituency. He made public transit free for youth, which really benefited the youth who live in our city, especially those who come from working families. And that is still a program that is running through our city today. He also created the first community aggregation. So we now have Clean Power SF, which is a clean alternative to PG&E. And we are now in the process of starting to talk as a city about what it would look like to buy up the grid from PG&E so we can have municipal power 100%. And that is in large part due to the fact that David created this measure and put it through our Board of Supervisors. As chair, he appointed the first dreamer to the board, not the board, rather, our central committee. And I know that that was a hard battle to have, because at the time the state party actually told David that he wasn't allowed to do so. And he said, you know, in our bylaws, we're allowed to. So he successfully appointed the first Dreamer. He also appointed the first Black trans woman in California to our central committee as well. I think I see a question. I don't know if that is for David. The CDP has an outdated structure. Would you be open to ideas such as increased education and training, as well as grassroots communication and participation? Yes, David absolutely believes in revamping the structure that we have currently. Um, Thankfully, you know, something that has a silver lining to COVID is our use of technology and our ability to connect with people from around the state. So I think that's a way that we can implement technology so we can increase voter education and really turn people out in a grassroots way to make sure that voters are engaged, informed, and have a reason to turn out to vote, so we can start flipping our congressional seats back, especially the ones we lost.
You have
I
about
think I heard a
yeah,
timer.
you have about a minute and a half left because I just rolled you over into the extra time. That would have been
Oh.
Q&A time. So you're
Okay.
good.
What concrete change, there's a question in the chat. What
Mhm.
concrete changes would you make?
That is a great David question. I know that David has talked a lot about having town halls that include all of the central committees. A really big part of his platform is um, giving more power to the local central committees throughout the state, and not just democratizing the power through the e-board, but with our regional directors and our local leaders as well. So having some kind of town hall where we can invite everyone over Zoom for those of us who can't afford to travel the state and be at town halls in person, we could come together in a way to do voter engagement and voter education that way. I see a hand up. I don't know if that's
It's
I don't
Garamendi.
see- Garamendi is on line here. I don't see the hand.
I see the hand. His hand is up.
It is my hand. This is John
Okay.
Garamendi.
Okay.
I was listening to the presentation.
Okay. Oh,
Did he have a comment?
Well, I can post our contact information in the chat bar, both my cell, David's direct line, our website, and our email address. David is going to be, he's been in the process of calling. He wants to make sure that every single delegate in the state is called by him personally. So he will be reaching out very soon. And thank you so much for your time. And I know I'm not as exciting to hear from as David is, but I really appreciate that y'all have been flexible with us.
And that is your time, Jackie.
Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your evening. It was great seeing everybody virtually.
Thank you. Marge is now in your hands as the chair. You're muted, Marge.
Sorry. So we have one more guest speaker, and we have John Garamendi, and I think both of them are on a time schedule. So
so we'll go to the congressman first.
Yeah, I hope that's okay, Jenny. We're going to go to the congressman.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Okay, Congressman Garamendi, we're so happy to have you here.
I'm delighted to be with you. And obviously, it's a very, very busy evening. Everybody is hustling for the election. The enthusiasm is really, really important. I get all the emails. I know you do too. I get text messages every 5 minutes from dozens of people. But all of it is the enthusiasm that we absolutely have to have as Democrats here in California. I just want to, I'm going to stay out of the election picture. I'll let all of you hear from the candidates and their surrogates. But what I want to share with you is the enthusiasm that I have for what is going on in Washington. The extraordinary change. It's as though this huge weight has been lifted from us with Trump not tweeting every morning. In fact, Trump not being able to tweet, and he's on the sidelines. and pretty soon he's going to be in the dustbin of history. But the reality is that we really have an opportunity to do some great things in Washington. I'm a bit late this evening. I didn't think I'd actually be able to get to be with you. We have some meetings underway dealing with a very important transportation infrastructure hearing tomorrow morning with the new Secretary of Transportation, Budovich. It's going to be the first public presentation of the president's infrastructure plan. And this will be on the transportation side of it. I do hope he also brings up the broadband piece of the infrastructure. And what I want to do is to make sure that we're well prepared tomorrow for the hearing to make it in America, an agenda I've been working on for the 11 years I've been in Congress. And then we've talked to the president about it 2 weeks ago in the Oval Office, 4 Democrats, 4 Republicans. And we worked through not only the Make It in America agenda, but equally as important, the fact that this infrastructure plan is going to be all about climate change. What we need to do for climate change from the transportation sector going electric, the electric grids, green power, renewable power, conservation, all along, all of those things are going to be in it. It is downright exciting. And of course, the rescue bill is done. The money is flowing into the pockets of Americans for stimulus. I don't know, I can go on and on and on, but it's just really good to be with you. And what is really good is the enthusiasm that I see from all of these candidates, the enthusiasm that I feel as we are forming up the state Democratic committee. And it's going to be good. Whatever the outcome is, it's going to be good because there are nothing but good candidates in every single slot along the way. So with that, I am occupying somebody else's time. They need the votes. Oh, by the way, I am one of the targeted Democrats for the next cycle. And so, yep, I'm going to be coming back as one of those enthusiastic candidates asking for your support, looking into and hopefully having the benefit of a well-honed Democratic committee. So thank you so very, very much for the time, and look forward to meeting with you in person, actually breaking bread, as they say in our business, pressing the flesh and getting to know people that are out there. That's a handshake, nothing more, please, nothing more than a handshake. So I look forward to seeing all of you, and thank you so very, very much.
Well, thank you so much for coming and talking to us. And we will all be supporting you. Don't worry about your election.
Oh, it is the worrying that brings success. So yes, I will worry, but in the meantime, we've got some really good things going in Washington. And I believe we're going to have that gun safety bill pass also. We're going to get it done. We really are. Thanks, Marge.
Thank you. Come again.
Good night now. Thank
Night.
you. Good night.
Okay. And thank you, Mike, for being so understanding. Mike is coming here to speak on behalf of Jenny.
So Mike, you have 5 minutes, and then if you don't use all your time, there's 2 minutes for Q&A, and we'll roll that over to the Q&A. So whenever you start is when I start.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good evening. Thank you for organizing this meeting and allowing me to speak on behalf of Jenny. My name is Mike Sharif with Jenny Bach's campaign for vice chair of the party. Jenny has served as secretary for the past 4 years. In 2017, she was elected as the first young Democrat to the board in over 20 years. As a party leader and activist, Jenny has worked to host trainings, issues-based forums and roundtables, and organizing for campaigns across the state. As vice chair, there are a few key issues that she wants to focus on. One is addressing misinformation and disinformation that not only has been a threat to our democracy, but is also a threat to our community's public health as well with COVID. Misinformation has lost California in ballot measures, it's deterred communities of color from voting, and it is now fueling the recall efforts against our governor. As a party, we need to combat this and strengthen our presence in communities in all reaches of the state. We should be getting on ethnic news media and partner with more trusted messengers on the ground to fight this misinformation. As a party, we should also address affordability of all things. Working families and activists shouldn't have to choose between volunteering and being involved, but while also struggling to pay rent and their bills. This is why Jenny believes that we need to advocate for the passage of CalCare and Medicare for all and address the growing housing crisis. Jenny's the daughter of Vietnamese refugees, so immigration issues are a priority for her as well. And this is why she'll work toward including our undocumented immigrant activists into our party process. And lastly, we need to be more proactive in local bench building. As a party, we need to work on institutionalizing a robust pipeline building program and provide resources for young leaders to run for office, because that's an area where Republicans outdo us. Jenny has received endorsements of the California Young Democrats, Congresswoman Katie Porter, Speaker Anthony Rendon, Senate Pro Tem Tony Atkins, Treasurer Fiona Ma, Insurance Commissioner Ricardo Lara, and many others. And she would be absolutely honored to have your vote as well. I'm a delegate also appointed by the California Young Democrats, and I just submitted my ballot for Jenny just before joining this meeting, and it felt fantastic. I hope you will join us as well. And I will post Jenny's contact information in case you want to reach out directly to her and her website for any information or any questions that I might not be able to answer here. So thank you for your time.
So you had 2 minutes left over, so you have a total of 4 minutes for Q&A.
I'm sorry, Margie, I sent a message only to you. I meant to send to everyone. Sorry. There we go.
I don't see any questions in the Q&A at this time.
Hey, thank you.
Bilbo's hand is up.
He's recognized through the chair.
Hi, Mike. Hi, Mike. Oh. Doesn't work to have two devices. Anyway, thanks for coming. So question, does Jenny support DeRocca's ideas around democratizing the Democratic Party and changing the top-down model?
Let me unmute real quick. So I don't know what her view is on DeRocca's specific proposals, but Jenny is in favor of decentralizing power from the chair and redistributing it among the rest of the officers, caucus chairs, and central committees. She believes that formalizing roles and responsibilities among the officers will lead to more transparency and accountability. She also thinks that shared governance will encourage more diversity on the standing committee appointments. Kind of like Malahat said earlier too, with the bylaws describing officer positions, there's so much more that these officers can do than just the few lines of responsibilities they have that are written in the bylaws currently.
And Jeanette, you have your hand up.
Yes. This would be a better question for her, but you might be able to answer it as well. Just what is something that she was really proud of doing during her first term as secretary?
Yeah, that would, I don't want to say this is her most proud, but I know that she would, it's definitely up there for her. And it is for me as a delegate from CYD. She's done a fantastic job getting younger people involved in the party. That's how we met actually in college. She recruited me to join the College Democrats when she was the chapter president at Sac State. And we've stayed friends ever since. So that's how I got here. And she's done that for countless other young Dems, appointing some of them as her delegates even, recommending them to other appointers and encouraging them to even run for office. So I know that's one thing she's super proud of. But I can certainly put you in touch with her for some other information on that.
Okay, no, thanks. So I was really, it's great to see her run last time, and it was a really close election, and so I'm glad she was able to, win and go forward.
Thank you. We're hoping to do that again.
All right, I don't see any other questions in the chat or any other hands up at this time.
So
Back in your hands, Madam Chair.
thank you for
Thank you so much.
and good luck. And we'll
Thank you. Appreciate your time.
So I just got a message from this for you. This is for the committee. April Verrett would like to speak with us. She's running for controller, and I had spoken to her campaign earlier. They said, oh, they didn't think anyone could make it, and it looks like she's here herself. So I'd like to invite her to introduce herself.
Hi, April. I can't find you right this second. Oh, there you are. So you get 5 minutes to speak, and then after you speak, you get 2 minutes of Q&A. If you don't use all your speaking time, we roll that time over to your Q&A time.
Thank you so much, Lynette, and thank you, Margie. It's a busy night for Democrats in the state of California. I'm glad we were able to make this work. Greetings to Solano County. I am April Verrett. I'm really proud to be running to be the controller of our party, to be your controller. I'm currently the president of SEIU Local 2015, where we represent 400,000 home care and nursing home workers across the state of California, over 20,000 right in Solano County. It's a place that I have visited many, many times and always feel very welcome and at home when I'm there. I hope I don't talk for 5 minutes. I would much rather have a conversation with you all because I am running to be the controller for all of us. I aspire as an organizer to listen more than I talk. And as controller, that's what I want to do. I want to travel across our state and listen to the Democrats. I want to meet every treasurer, talk to every controller, talk about how I can support you. What help do you need? What resources do we need to be the strongest party we can be? I think our democracy is in trouble. And I think we need to be strong Democrats, big D Democrats, so that we can all together be strong little D Democrats, right? We all need to practice democracy. We need to all vote. We need to encourage everyone around us to vote, because I don't know if you all have noticed, but they are trying to take our democracy from us. The recall that we're seeing here in California is just, I think, one example of that. I believe that our party, and as controller, I'll work to make sure our party is powered by small dollar donations to get away from the corporate and institutional money that is a huge issue for so many of us. I want to make sure there is strong stewardship of our party at every single level. We need strong leaders, whether you are a statewide elected officer or you are an activist in your Dem club. We all have a role to play, and we all need to be developed as leaders. I want to make sure our party is every single day being an actively anti-racist organization. If the Democrats are not going to lead the way to dismantle systemic and structural racism and inequity, who in the hell will? It's up to us to be anti-racist individuals and to be a part of an anti-racist organization. We have to build a bigger, stronger table for working people. Over the last year, we've seen families who were already living on the margins struggle even more, while the wealthy and the well-connected are doing better than ever. It's time to put a stop to it and make sure working families have a chance to not just survive, but to thrive. And last but certainly not least, I want to make sure we are investing in the next generation of leaders in our organization. We need a strong bench. We need that bench to be as diverse and beautiful and inclusive as our state. And I think a lot of you all on this Zoom may share some of my priorities with me. So let's be the team that together will make it happen. So thank you.
Okay, so you have 1 minute and 40 seconds left. So now you have 3 minutes and 40 seconds for Q&A.
Sure, I just want to acknowledge, I see one question there in the chat, if I may, Lynette.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily have a financial background, But in my day job, I do manage a $90 million a year budget in my local union. And I plan to bring the same transparency, integrity, and openness, and making sure that the resources of this party are handled in the best interest of Democrats. That's what I've done as a labor leader, and that is what I'll do as the controller of our party.
Any more questions?
Hmm.
Well, I'm so glad you can come and pop in.
Madam Chair, I'm
Yes?
sorry, there's some questions that are popping up in the chat.
Oh, okay.
So there's a question from Susan George. How can we better democratize the leadership of the party?
Yeah, I think that so the first thing I would say is that I think we gotta be able to have the real conversations in our party, and not just a few of the elite people, but as a party, how do we come to a common understanding of what shared leadership looks like? And then we have to hold each other accountable to do it. I'm not a shrinking violet. You may have noticed. I don't plan to just be a controller that plays her role on the finance team and that's it and that's all. I'm doing this because I want to dig in. I want to be a part of a team. And that's where it all starts. And we have to create the space and empower others to lead with us. That's what I've done for the last 20 years. And it's that type of spirit that I want to bring to the party. It's not easy, because to democratize, to empower people, that means you got to give up something that you have, right? And so how are we pushing people and making sure that those that hold power are willing to share it?
Matthew Fickelstein has his hand up, and then after Matthew, I see there's a question from Don Lowry in the chat. Go ahead, Matt.
Thank you. So my question is, when the party gives its endorsement to a candidate, that candidate goes on to win the race and then acts in ways which are completely contrary to our explicit platform. How do you propose that we then deal with that candidate in his or her next election?
I couldn't agree with you more. It often feels like that candidates pick up the brand Democrat, right, just because it helps get them elected, and then they abandon all values and principles and the platform that's attached to it. And that really, I think, starts at the county and the central committee level. There's so many elected folks that are endorsed at the central committee. And when they come back to us for endorsements, we have to hold them accountable, right? And not give them our endorsement if they are not sticking up for our values. I think we just have to be better about holding people accountable and organizing around issues 365 days a year. We should not just be a party that elects people. We should be a party that stands for issues, holds folks accountable, and that we're on the streets 365 days a year, not just election day, Labor Day to election day.
Madam Chair, we only have 6 minutes left. 6 seconds left. So I don't think we can take the next question.
So I'll just say this really quick. We need a plan. It does not happen overnight. We got to have a real plan to get small dollar donors and get rid of corporate and special interest money. Call me. We could talk more.
Okay, thank you very much. So glad you could make it. And next, we added into the agenda, and I'm not sure if you were here yet, but Lynette, we are going to allow the 2 candidates for Region 2 Director to have time as speakers. So maybe we'll pick someone else to do the timing.
That would probably be good.
I can do that.
So who is that volunteered?
I said I'll do it.
Oh, okay. So we'll have Tiffany. Will you do the timing? All right. So we have Lynette. Are you ready?
Sure, I can go first. I don't have a problem with that.
All right.
Good evening, Dems. I'm very excited to come to you this evening for the opportunity to share some of my vision and what I've done for this region for the last 3 years. I was appointed initially to this position in an effort to bring a woman. This is the first time a woman or a person of color has served in this position, and I hope to continue to be able to represent Region 2, not just as a woman, but not just as a person of color, but a person who's about diversity and bringing others under the tent. That's been the theme of all of our candidates. But as my 3 years, I've visited all of the central committees. And when I walked into a couple of them, they're like, "You're Lynette Henley? You're our regional director?" Because they'd never seen a woman, nor they had seen a person of color come in. And then what I brought with my candidacy was the ability to build bridges and bring some calm. When I first took over, our prior regional director was kind of MIA, and they wanted to have a hands-on regional director. So I was called in to help with elections. I was called in when there was conflict. And I would always go to these meetings from Solano County all the way up to Lake, Colusa, Napa, Contra Costa, and even driving in the traffic to Alameda right after work. And so I brought a calm, and I think I brought some cohesiveness, and also voices that weren't being heard in those central committees are now being heard in the central committee. What else have I done? I think I've energized people to want to do more in the party and be available and move forward for what we're doing. And I say this is that my background as an educator, I've taught pre-K all the way through high school, taught me how to build bridges, how to listen, how to bring my knowledge of the various experiences I had, from integrating schools as a second grader in Charleston, South Carolina, to being an advocate for myself in high school and an all Catholic high school, where they weren't going to put me in an AP class because I didn't fit the mold. And when I said, "Well, what was the criteria?" And they said, "Well, you had to have at least an A or a B in math and history to be in the AP classes." I said, "Oh, well, you must not have checked my transcript, because I know I have A's and B's in math and history." And so they changed the paradigm of who was in those classes. And so that's who I am. I'm a person that looks at the things that may need to be fixed, and I try to go in and work with whoever's there to make sure that they are. I know for sure that my background in parliamentary procedure has helped calm some of the troubled waters, because we go back and look at what the words say in the bylaws, as well as Robert's rules, when the bylaws are not speaking to that. And as I said, when I first went to Contra Costa, some of this is urban legend over here, because there's nowhere in your bylaws that says you're supposed to do that. So those are a few things that I've done. What would I like to see different in my next 2 years? I'd like to drill down to the club level. I haven't had that opportunity. I've worked with some clubs, but not enough. I worked with the Napa Club. I worked with when the CDC here in Vallejo was trying to get chartered. I worked with them. And then as your parliamentarian for our central committee, I've had the pleasure of working with the labor Dems that came in and the New Jewish Club that came in. But we wanted to make sure that when they came in, we weren't putting anybody on hold. So I took the time to meet with the president of the Jewish Club, as well as with the Labor Club, to say, "You're not quite ready. You need some more materials that need to be brought forward." I'm trying to think what else. I was very instrumental with my other regional directors in making sure that when we're in the middle of COVID, that the voting was done by mail. It wasn't perfect. It was a lot of things that could have been done better. But from that experience, we made sure that our Dems that wanted to vote and participate in the process were able to do that. And there was a learning curve that was huge, because the party had never done that before. And I believe that this next round of voting that we're going to be doing will be much better handled, more organized, and that people really have a chance to get out and speak. And this is the first time with COVID, I have seen more candidates run for office actually come to central committees, big and small, across the state, to give their voices. And I think, if nothing else, that has been fantastic. And if I am retained, and I hope that I will be, that I will have the opportunity to work with more of you as your regional director and continuing.
All right, time.
Do we have any questions?
There are none in the chat. See if any hands are raised. No, I don't see anything, Lynette.
Okay, so I'll take my last 2 minutes for Q&A, and I'd like to say that I've been endorsed by Senator Dodd, enthusiastically. I've been endorsed by Cecilia, 84, Assemblywoman. I've been endorsed by the Black Women Organized for Political Action at the state level, and many mayors, vice mayors in the area, Lori Wilson out of Sassoon, Lamar out of Antioch, has joined in, and I see Kevin waved his head. Yes, Kevin, yes, he has endorsed me. And many of you have endorsed me because you know the work that I've done in the last 3 years, and I've been available. And I tell this story, I had to take my little great nephew to a meeting in Contra Costa because they were working on bylaws. And he's like, oh, I know. My mom takes me to all these meetings. And I've also been endorsed by the Central Labor Council for Napa Solano. And as a labor person, that was really special to me because labor has really been a big part of my life and my growth and my education as a leader in organizations. And the one last thing I'll say, I think my time is coming to a close, is that learning the party from the local level as a county committee member, and at the state level, serving on the legislative committee for the last 12 years, and recently in the last 4 years, serving as a co-chair. It has taught me so much about the inequities of the party and bringing people in. We're one of the few committees, and I know Susan and Matthew have spoken to our committee, that really is an open committee for people to come in. So I'm Lynette Henley. I am candidate for re-election for Region 2 Director, and I hope I have your vote and your support. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. I just realized we do have Mayor Wilson, Lori Wilson here, and we did change the agenda and added some extra guest speakers ahead of her, and I don't know if she really has a lot of time in her position. So if that's all right, I'd like to go to Lori.
Madam Chair, we have the other candidate for regional director first.
Can we have him after her?
Because Lori is in public comments on the agenda.
Whatever the chair desires, I'm happy to wait for the mayor.
If you're willing to wait for the mayor, Lori has another meeting she's supposed to be at 8. So if she could speak first, I would say that would be
Absolutely.
great.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Thank you, Jonathan. All right, Chair, is the floor mine?
Yes, thank you, Lori. Thanks for coming.
Thank you. Thank you guys all for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity to be able to speak to you tonight. I did receive your letter on March 16th, and I had prepared a response and sent it over, and we got a second letter to our city manager. So it was brought up in public comments, but I wanted to give context to the letter, and I don't know if the committee has had an opportunity as a body to review the letter. But, I think the request to make sure that we're rooting out extremism in our law enforcement and related government agencies is really critical in Solano County. And I wholeheartedly support that endeavor. And I appreciate you as a central committee taking the opportunity to highlight that issue and making sure that each city and county, each one of the governments in Solano County were able to receive that message. But I did want to note, that as a mayor, and I'm just speaking with my mayor hat on, not as a Democrat or progressive or any of that, is that, as mayors, we are really charged with bringing our community along and helping them see the big picture and ensuring the values that we hold dear are progressed in each one of our communities. And what happens is that the Benicia Black Lives Matter letter was an open letter to everyone, but they didn't send it directly to the cities. and didn't make a specific request. It was an open letter. However, when the Central Committee sent the letter as a direct letter to the cities and made a request and including that message as their own, they gave a point of contention in communities. And so I heard from other mayors, and I know already in my community, because one of the people named is a member of my community, it became a point of contention. And so now this will come back before our board, our council for review. And so now when it comes back, the focus will not be on what do our policies look like? Do they need to strengthen? And I'll say in Suisun City, we actually already have policies, and what we were going to give direction to is to review to make sure they were strong enough. But instead of the message being about that, we now have a group where the message is about the other letter. So I just wanted to encourage you guys, the letter that you wrote with absent of including the Benicia Black Lives Matter was a great letter. And I think it was a call to action and that every mayor should absolutely respond to that letter. But I think that we give fodder for our enemies really to be able to attack our message and focus on the irrelevant things and not on the thing that's most important, that in your specific agency, do you have this issue? And if you don't, do you have a way to ensure that this is not an issue for you? And that should be the focus. And so I just wanted to encourage you guys. I appreciate the letter, and I want you to do more of that. And I want you to hold each and every mayor accountable to what your request was. So I hope there's a follow-up. If you don't see action on the councils, that you send that letter again and ask for a follow-up action. So I encourage you and applaud your efforts on that. I just want you to be mindful that for us in elected office at the local level, we're leading these cities where they're diverse, and they're diverse in their ideology. And there is a strong movement to attack, and it's born out of the 4 years of Trump, to attack everything and divert from the focus. And so I want what you guys do to be not only relevant, but I want it to be productive. And I don't want to get caught up in squabbles at council focused on things that we shouldn't be focused on. And of course, most people know I run a strong, tight ship. And if I have to kick someone out and get us back on focus, I will. But not all of our mayors do that. And not all our mayors agree with your letter. And they can use the other letter as an out to not do what you want them to do. And I want you guys to be productive. I want you guys to be effective in every single one of our communities and making sure that the values that we hold dear are happening in our community. So I appreciate you guys, and thank you so much for the time.
Thank you. Thank you, Lori. Thank you for coming, and thank you for addressing this important issue.
Thank you.
There's a question in the chat. Do we want to address it with Lori?
Lori, do you have a time for one question?
Yes. As soon as when my phone rings, I gotta go though.
Isn't this public comment?
No.
No.
Do we allow questions of public commenters?
Well, she's also an elected official, and
she's here.
So we could have put her in as a public official. We put her in public comment to get her sooner. So I think she can speak to us as mayor.
Is it okay to answer the question? I see one question. So is it okay to answer that question?
Answer that quickly. Thank you.
Okay. So it says, what's the nuance here of what caused the conflict? Is so in Benicia's Black Lives Matter was not sent directly to the communities. It was sent as an open letter, and it talks more specifically about sheriff's department, and particularly calling out members of the particular members of the sheriff, in our regard, a Suisun City resident. And what has happened now is that because that letter includes a lot of things, that was brought out by the Open Vallejo reporting, that is now the focus in my community instead of this. And so instead of making sure that we're looking at our laws, are looking at our policies and guidance in our law enforcement agencies to ensure that we don't have extremism, that's not being the focus. We have a group who's now taken that letter as the focus. However, if the letter was sent without the backup letter and the letter that you guys sent directly, that they wouldn't have that fuel. Do you understand what I'm saying? So it's more about making sure that you guys recognizing your audience to us as elected officials into cities, we represent diverse people, and we want to stay on track. And for those that are Democratic mayors and Democratic council members, you know, we fight all the time with our conservative counterparts and people who have values that are not like ours. And you know, we have to pick and choose our battles and focus on the major things. And the major thing is every single county, every single city in this county needs to make sure that they have policies in place to ensure that there is not extremism within the ranks. And if there is, that it's rooted out immediately, and any officers or administrators or whoever in those departments are gone and are not allowed to serve anywhere else. That's what we need to be focused on. But if we get focused on calling particular individuals out who don't have to do anything with that city, right? And so this letter was sent to not just the county. I think you guys sent it to the county, I'm assuming by what you wrote, but when you sent it to the cities, it brought all this stuff up when you attached the letter. And so what I'm saying is that I applaud your cover letter, and I thought it was awesome, and I thought it was direct and to the point, and it allowed me to be direct and to the point with my community. But then people are using the back letter, and I don't think the letter from Benicia Black Lives Matter added value to your letter. I think it took it away by giving people something to focus on aside from what they should be focusing on, which is what are you doing with the policies in place to make sure that our communities are safe and healthy, and that every single person feels safe in the community.
Jeanette has her hand up. You're recognized.
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify public comment versus not public comment. Since we sent these letters out and then Lori responded and said she wanted to talk to us. And, you know, we thought about putting this under old business because we talked about the letter last month, but then old business was at the end. And so I knew that she would have another, you know, conflict, and time was limited. So it's not our normal public comment. So I appreciate that. And thank you very much, Jonathan, for letting her go first as well. It was just because she had another thing as well. So thank you for just fitting that in there. And we just thought it was important for the whole body to be able to hear her comments because she asked to address us regarding the letter that we voted to send out.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Lori. Mayor Wilson.
Lori's fine.
Okay. So moving on, Jonathan.
All right, thank you. And I always have time for Mayor Wilson. So good evening, Solano Democrats. My name is Jonathan Cook. I use he, him gender pronouns, and it is so good to be with you this evening. I am a executive director here at Solano Pride Center, and I'm running for Region 2 director because I'm passionate about organizing Democrats, serving my community, and bringing about positive change. We can accomplish real change by working together to move California forward, and if elected to represent you, that's exactly what I intend to do. As a Region 2 director, the things that I'm wanting to focus on include advocacy and serving as a liaison between the central committees and our state party, and especially with being able to elevate the voices and work and effort and contributions of our Democratic clubs, to hold regular regional meetings and training and support for our delegates so that we're really able to work year-round on the issues that are so important. And then, of course, building critical Democratic campaign infrastructure to take on an active role in fundraising throughout our region, both for central committees and for our state party. I'm thinking of the great conversations I've had with our wonderful clubs, including the Northern Solano Democrats, who I'm proud to be a member of, and doing so much work and thinking outside of just our county and region, but also working on Senate races across the country. The great work that's been done by the Rossmore Dems and Contra Costa, the largest Democratic club in our state, and working. So I think that we really need to focus on being able to lift up those voices who are wanting to do the hard work and making sure that we're able to utilize every hand that is able to work for us. I know a little bit about starting a club. I was able to be a founding member and help charter the Lambda Democrats of Contra Costa County. I currently serve as the secretary of the Stonewall Democrats for Solano County as an ADEM for AD 11, and very happy to be able to do that work. As a millennial gay man, I've seen firsthand the challenges that we're facing in this moment with an economic crisis, a global pandemic, the social inequities that we're facing, accelerating climate change, wealth inequality, and exacerbated deep disparities in our society. The solutions to these challenges require innovative and bold ideas, and I think that being a millennial, being a gay man, those are voices that are not often heard in our party and not represented in large numbers. And if I'm elected, I would become the first LGBT regional director for Region 2, as well as the first millennial. And I am hoping to make this change. Our wonderful region is a diverse area, which includes the rice farmers of the Sacramento Valley, all the way down to the Tri-Valley region in Alameda. I am happy to have the support and endorsements of many friends and colleagues from across the region. I've lived, worked, and organized in many of these counties, including Napa, Solano, and Contra Costa, and of course, working throughout the other counties as well. I'm happy to have the endorsements of many folks that I admire and respect, including our chair, Margie Olson, Solano Supervisor Aaron Hannigan, Supervisor Monica Brown, Vacaville Mayor Ron Rowlett, Councilmember Nolan Sullivan, Councilmember Mike Silva, Fairfield Council members Doris Panduro and Rick Vaccaro, and then Contra Costa County Supervisor Diane Burgess, Concord Mayor Tim McGallion, Walnut Creek Mayor Kevin Wilk, and then down to San Ramon with Councilmember Sabina Zafar, and to Dublin with Vice Mayor Sean Kumagai, and then up to another wine country that I love, in Livermore, to have the support of council members there as well, and a very large growing list of delegates. So I, support and appreciate the support of our rank and file Democrats who are doing the work, our delegates, our many clubs. I also have the support of our local Tri-City NAACP president, Johnny Con George, a friend of mine who I serve on the police oversight committee with here in Fairfield, with the co-chair of the LGBTQ caucus of the CDP, Tiffany Woods, and many, many others. And so I think that being able to organize, being able to bring energy, being able to bring my experience raising money as an executive director of a local nonprofit and working in both Solano and Contra Costa in the nonprofit industry, I've raised millions of dollars for our organizations I volunteer and work with. And I think that there's so much opportunity to do that, to activate and to engage grassroots donors in our region. And I think also to be able to work with our executive board for the CDP to be able to uphold our democratic values and to speak truth to power. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there questions?
I don't see any in the chat.
Susan.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Susan.
Thank you. Hi, Jonathan. Obviously, with my background, I support you, but this is actually a serious question. I hadn't attended any Central Committee meetings in a long time. And I was very excited with the endorsements that happened last year. And I attended a meeting, and I can only describe it as what took place here as a hostile takeover of the endorsements. And I wonder now as regional director, you're a representative in the party, and it's important that you hold to process, and it's important that you respect process. So I'm wondering, I'd like to hear your comments about what took place here and how you would ensure that things like that wouldn't happen on your watch.
Thank you for the question, Susan. I guess I'd like to ask a.
Yeah. Oh, well, I want to be sure that we're not that you're advocating for yourself and not and that goes for everyone here. We're advocating for.
I asked him how he would ensure that those types of things didn't happen. I think I'm pretty clear with my question.
The question is fair.
So Susan, the thing I would ask is just a clarifying question as to which process you were speaking of in particular.
When both Steve Young and had been endorsed, and there was no endorsement for the mayor of Vallejo, how those endorsements were overturned, attempted to be overturned.
Okay, thank you for clarifying. So I wasn't involved in the endorsement process. I'm not a member of the endorsement committee, but just speaking very broadly and generally, that the role of the Region 2 director is not to insert themselves into procedure. It's to follow the bylaws of both the CDP and our central committees, and to make sure that they're supporting the central committee chairs and the committee chairs within the central committees, and making sure that the process is even-handed, fair, and follows procedures and rules that are established and respected throughout our bylaws. So that's my answer to that question. Thank you.
Thank you.
There are no other questions I see in the chat, Madam Chair.
Okay, so any final thoughts, Jonathan?
I failed to mention to some of my folks, also endorsement of Benicia Mayor Steve Young and Vallejo Councilwoman Rosanna Verder Aliga, as well as the Solano Community College Board Trustee Quentin Voice, who I also served as treasurer for his campaign, and of course, Vallejo City Unified School District Trustee John Fox. We have some upcoming delegate meet and greets. I hope that you can join us on Sunday for AD 14, and then the following Wednesday on the 31st, we're having one for both AD 4 and 11 at 7 p.m., and I hope to connect with you soon. Thanks so much for your consideration, and please vote.
Okay, thank you. So moving on to public comment, and we do have someone who would like to speak in public comment, and that is Timmy Knox.
Okay, before we start the public comment, you need to say whatever time it is, because I don't see my clock right now. The public comment starts at 8:16 and it would go to 8:46. That's 30 minutes. You get 2 minutes to speak in public comment uninterrupted. All right, so hold on 1 second, Timothy, and let me get my 2 minutes on my clock here. And we start the time when you start talking. So I'm ready.
All right, well, I'm ready too. Hello, everyone. My name is Timothy Knox. I'm a graduate from Benicia High School and Solano Community College. I am now a legislative intern for the office of Assemblymember Alex Lee. Alex Lee is the youngest Assembly member in the last 80 or so years. He represents Milpitas and San Jose area. One of his major pieces of legislation that he's putting forth in this legislative cycle is AB 20, which would ban corporate election or corporate contributions to individuals running for election throughout the state of California. This is not a controversial piece of legislation by any means. It has already been endorsed by the Alameda Central Committee as well as the Los Angeles Central Committee. Additionally, it's already implemented in very conservative states like Oklahoma, West Virginia, and Texas, as well as very liberal states like Connecticut, Massachusetts, and Colorado. No means controversial, and it would be great for people who are running for office who don't have access to donations from Walmart or Walgreens or Exxon or whatever these mega corporations are offering. And for that reason, it's been endorsed by also the Sierra Club and the Sunrise Movement, because a lot of environmental movements support this because they're all going up against big oil and other industries that are fighting back on issues of climate change and pollution. And I ask for your support and hopefully an endorsement from the Central Committee on this piece of legislation so that you can join Alameda and Los Angeles. And if you have any questions about it or want me to send any of the fact sheets or other documents, I can go ahead and do that.
Okay, you have 30 seconds left.
I don't have all too much to add. If anyone has a question, you can type in the chat and I'll respond to it either verbally or in the chat.
Lynette, do you have a question? Your hand is up.
Yes, I have a question. Timothy, have you submitted to the state party to ask that the legislative committee endorse this piece of legislation?
I have not personally, although Aubrey, our legislative aide, might have.
So it's important, you have until the 31st of March to do that. Just go to the CDP website and fill out the form, and then it'll go to the state legislative committee. And we will review it. And then you also will have an opportunity to speak to it at the convention.
Okay.
So you can get the state party's endorsement possibly, in addition to the county committees and other people.
Certainly. And I saw, Bonnie messaged me, the legislation is AB 20.
Thank you.
Sean, did you have a question?
Oh, no, I was raising my hand if I could be recognized for public comment. Nice to meet you, Timothy. I also work for an assembly member.
All right, well, if no one else has a questions, I see Bonnie has another question. Which does what? It bans contributions from corporations and businesses to individual political candidates. Unions can still send in donations, and also corporations can still donate to PACs and ballot initiatives. Because of Supreme Court precedent, we can't change that. That's all I have. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. So who was that had another public comment?
I think it was Sean.
Sean?
So you heard the rules right, Sean, 2 minutes. And we start when you start talking.
Thank you, Lynette, and thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to say hi to everyone. This is my first time coming to Solano Central Committee. I'm Sean Kumagai. I wear many hats, one of which is I'm Vice Mayor down in Dublin. And also I am the California Democratic Party API, Asian Pacific Islander Caucus, Northern Chair. I've been serving on that board for the past 4 years. Ever since I became a elected ADEM. I'm also the district director for Assemblymember Bauer Cahan, which represents portions of central Contra Costa County, as well as the Tri-Valley region down into Alameda County. I'm very happy to be here with you tonight. I am running for a new position in the CDP API caucus. It is the state treasurer. So we will have at our next caucus meeting an officer election, and you don't have to be a delegate to join a caucus and to vote in caucuses. I highly encourage everyone to join the API caucus. I think it's one of the best run caucuses in the CDP. I'm a little biased, but we put on good programs, and we are good advocates for our growing API community across the state, which really in many ways has been the margin of victory in so many highly contested contests throughout the state. So I think it's very important that we have that perspective and that voice. As the state treasurer, I would continue to grow the API caucus to focus on increased membership and to putting our funds to putting on good programs and expanding the API voice within the party. So please join the caucus. I ask for your vote. I'm running on the API's United slate, and it's a very diverse slate of candidates for for the caucus leadership. Thank you so much.
That was time, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other public comments? Okay, we'll move on to our report.
So, Madam Chair, we need to close public comment, and I have 8:22 that public comment has been closed.
Thank you.
Okay, so now I'm not, whatever's next on your agenda.
Move on to reports. And from the executive board, we at the executive board decided that the written reports for clubs and ex officios were not really getting the message across. So we are offering everyone a chance to give a verbal report. So that's a change. And we think that will get out better information and camaraderie. There was some questions about Young Democrats. And I just wanted to clarify that there is a Young Democrat chapter in Solano County. And they're having a meeting on April the 5th at 8 p.m. on Zoom. And you can contact them, Young Democrats Solano @gmail.com if you're interested, or you know someone who is interested in that.
Margie, through the chair, please, I have a question.
Uh-huh.
Is that a chartered club of this county, or is that the state?
No, it's the state, and we don't really have anything to do with that. It's chartered by the state. They're a separate organization. There was a question about whether they could be chartered by us, and Young Democrats can be chartered as county clubs, but they need to go through the process that all our clubs go through.
And that's a completely transparent process like the rest of the chartered clubs would be. And there's no gatekeeping involved and no disinformation on the front end, correct?
And, we do have our club coordination committee, and they are working on a process to make it easier for everyone to know exactly what steps are required. So she'll talk a little bit about that during her report.
Thank you.
The other thing I wanted that we discussed at the executive board is before we vote, we have a resolution. I do think we need to have complete information before we vote on a resolution or a letter. I think Lori's comments made it clear that we really needed to study the letter before we agreed to send it on. Okay, other executive board members, Northern Vice Chair, do you have a report this evening?
I'm going to defer to Tiffany about the fundraising. That's where our focus has been.
Okay. So, Tiffany?
Yes, good evening, everyone. We held our fundraising committee meeting on last Thursday. It was not well attended, but we got some work done. We do have confirmed one of our guest speakers. The Honorable Congresswoman Barbara Lee has agreed to join us in an endeavor. We do have our meeting that's coming up on tomorrow at 5:30 to about 6:30. And the invites have been sent out to those committee members. Again, the event is going to be on Saturday, April the 24th from 4:30, and it's going to be via Zoom. The ActBlue account has already been set up, so you can go ahead and start purchasing your tickets now. Again, we're still confirming the list of guest speakers, and the title is Rally Up, because guess what? We're going to rally up this time. Go Dems.
Go Dems. Thank you, Tiffany. Treasurer's report. Yeah. I know we have written material. You have anything you'd like to say about it? Information officer. Do you have a report this evening?
Yeah, sorry. I was trying to get the bylaw things in. As far as the report, so I had mentioned to the executive board that we were going to be asking for some money, but I have my dates wrong. It's in May that we will need to schedule a payment for our Nation Builder account. And so that will be coming up then. So other than that, just monitoring everything and keeping track of our usage on our Google Drives. I will send out a written report after this meeting just to give you some statistics on our website.
Okay. Thank you. Secretary, do you have anything you'd like to report? I know you're always doing so many things.
No, I don't really have anything tonight. Thanks.
All right. And so we had, we'll move to the ex officio, and John Garamendi spoke. So that was really good. And is Miguel here for Thompson?
Margie, are you going to let your parliamentarian have her report?
Oh, parliamentarian. I guess I thought, okay, I'm sorry. I always forget something.
It's okay. Do you have the bylaws at another place on the?
Well, I have the bylaw committee, but it would be all right if you present.
Well, I can do it where you have it on the agenda, but Carrie brought up the question of transparency with the bylaws. And the bylaws committee has been very transparent and trying to be helpful when new clubs are trying to come forward. Because when we refer them to the bylaws, it's kind of vague. And we worked on that to try to bring a little more clarity to chartering your club. And the club committee that has Jeannie and Mona have been working on a handbook so that we can also make sure that they have like the step-by-step as well as what the bylaws say. So the bylaws committee is working in conjunction with this, with the club committee to try to make it a little more transparent, a little less wonky to become a club. Because the bylaws are kind of general and sort of vague. And if you don't know exactly what, you have to have minutes, but what do minutes mean? And so we talked about that a lot this weekend to try to increase the clarity of what the bylaws are asking clubs to do. So thank you for your concern for that. And currently our bylaws don't speak to having young Dems in our central committee, but because it's silent, it doesn't prohibit them from being a chartered club too. So, and then as parliamentarian, the work that I've been doing since our last meeting is we did have a bylaws committee, and we have several items that we'll be bringing before the body to vote on tonight and to do some cleanup of the bylaws. That was it.
Okay, thank you.
Carrie's hand is up.
Carrie, I was gonna say Carrie's hand is up.
Thank you for being, for recognizing me. So there's been some confusion about if a club is chartered through the state and can it be chartered also through the county? Are we clear on that now?
It's only the young Dems that they're the ones that have 2 levels of ability to charter. And so we've been trying to work with Emma from the state party, and she said they can be chartered as under the Young Dems statewide, but if your county committee bylaws don't have any some county committee bylaws don't allow Young Dems to be chartered. Ours are silent, and so we could charter them as a club for Solano County because we don't have it as a prohibitive piece. And that's what we were trying to get clarified from the state, because we didn't want to charter them and say, oops, we did something wrong and have to pull it back. And I'd rather us be able to charter them in the right way so that they can have dual representation.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Matthew's hand is up.
Could you help clarify for me? Is this why the Young Dems in its previous formation, when it was having difficulty getting chartered through the Central Committee, was unable to obtain the charter that it was rightfully asking for at that time? Is that can we drill down on that incident and explain the specific confusion as to why it went off the rails in that instance and is now being ushered through here? Is that the clarification that you needed to complete the process?
Well, they didn't actually.
Madam Chair. Oh, yeah. You can go ahead. I mean,
I was just going to say that they didn't actually complete their application.
They just came to us.
We were ready to consider it, but they told us they were going to, but then they.
Yeah, they kind of backed off. And this was like it's been like about 2 years that they've been kind of back and forth. And Jack was kind of leading the group, him and Hannah. And so they were kind of in both places. And then COVID hit and everything kind of stopped. So I'm just really excited that they're, kind of back on track and ready to move forward. So it wasn't anything of the central committee. It was them not really ready to present their materials to us. So I think that was more an issue rather than not the clarity of the state, and just the issue of the state just came up recently. It came to our attention recently about the ability to charter in both places. I hope that answered your question, Matthew.
Thank you. That is sufficient. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So I'd like to move along to ex officio reports. Congressman Thompson. Do we have any one who'd like to make a report for in an assembly district? Or supervisors? So I think maybe they're still sending written reports.
There's
They are welcome to present their reports.
so there's a couple hands that went up. Paula Bauer, then Lynette, then Jeanette.
Yeah, so for Mike Thompson, I just want to say that his representative Miguel is still dealing with a bone marrow transplant, but Thompson has scheduled a drive-in fundraiser for April 10th. And it's at Mare Island, and his guest speaker is Representative Barbara Lee. So I just want to let you guys know that. You can find the info on his webpage. Or email me and I'll send you the link.
Okay, thank you, Paula. Is there anyone else with information about the elected officials?
That was why my hand was up. Thanks, Paula.
Okay.
And
Jeanette
is up.
And I just wanted to let you know, I heard this afternoon from Deborah Dixon that there was a family illness, and so she was not able to report on Senator Dodd. But I did not receive any written reports for legislative things. So any reports that I received, I sent out.
Okay, thank you. So
my hand's back up, Margie.
Oh, okay.
You know, Miguel has been such a long-standing member of our Central Committee, and I just think we need to send a thanking of you or something, just kind of an outreach to let him know we miss him and that we're, you know, keeping him in our positive thoughts. So, you know, if we could do that, that would be really great. Either have the secretary or information officer do that. I mean, we don't have anything in like the Sunshine Fund in our bylaws that we do that kind of stuff, but he has been, you know, faithful to the Central Committee over the years. And if we could just a card saying thanking of you from the Central Committee, I think would kind of be uplifting for him.
Yes, I did send him a card last month. I didn't know I thought maybe he was recovered. But I
want to say
another one. Yeah.
I do have his address in where he's staying at in Redwood City. If anyone wants it, to be able to send the card or whatnot.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you, John.
Thank you.
Okay, well, let's go on to our clubs. Community Democratic Club, you have a report for us this evening? Or someone from the club?
Just a reminder, you get 2 minutes for your club reports.
This is Calvin Harrell. Good evening. I'm representing the Community Democratic Club. I was called this evening to get on, and I do not have a report on hand. So I apologize for that on behalf of the organization. I'm certain that they will submit a written report. That being said, I'd like to move to something else very quickly, if the chair would give me the pleasure, and that is to express a very profound thank you for sending a card on behalf of the organization to my home in condolence for the loss of both my mother and brother through this COVID challenge over the past 6 weeks. You guys have no idea how that simple expression moved me. So thank you very much for taking lead on that, Ms. Olson, and signing off on that. And the rest of you that know me, I love you all. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Oh.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for being here.
Well, it is an honor, you know, to watch, even if I don't have anything good to say right now. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Jewish Democratic Club.
Sure, let me just bring up my minutes. Okay, the Jewish Democratic Club of Solano held its monthly meeting on Thursday, March 4th at 6 p.m. A quorum was present. This was like a super productive meeting. Monica Brown had something to do with it. She presented a proposal for club members to make monthly small dollar contributions so that we can build a real war chest come elections. to help support Solano County Democrats running for office. No votes are taken on this item, but it is something that we are going to be pursuing. The club took unanimous votes on the following matters. We co-sponsored a resolution on the need for an international fund for Israeli-Palestinian peace, which will be submitted to the CDP Resolutions Committee by March 31st, 2021. I will say in brief that this is Naida Lowy's dream child and her vision for a future Palestinian state, that an Israeli state that's not actually policy directed, but is based upon the peace approaches which were promulgated in Northern Ireland, which after just a little over a decade effectively created peace in a situation that the world thought was collectively unsolvable. And these incentivize economic approaches. They incentivize like person-to-person approaches that create shared context for families that have experienced tragedy on both sides of the conflict. This will be the future of defining paradigm of how peace is brought into the region. And we look forward to California adopting it as a larger model for the globe to follow suit. Endorsing the Solano County Democratic Party's previously endorsed resolution on the need for justice to prevail in Solano County District Attorney investigations and prosecutions of police use of force incidents. This was the same resolution that we endorsed here. And that was written by Susan George. It's no surprise that our club also endorsed it. Finally, they gave permission for Club President Matthew Finkelstein to send a letter reviewed by all present to Solano County Sheriff's Department regarding the club's deep concern over extremist 3%ers working within the department and other forms of extremism, which we must cull out of our police department in order for us to be safe, and our sheriff's departments. We agreed that we will not be meeting next month because April 8th, there will be an event honoring Yom HaShoah, or Holocaust Remembrance Day in Fairfield. That event will be going up shortly on Facebook, and I will make sure that all of you receive invites.
That's time, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. Northern Solano Democratic Club?
I submitted a written report and it's 20 till 9, so let's move on.
Thank you. Progressive Democrats of Benicia?
Thank you, Chair. The Progressive Dems of Benicia met on March 9th, and we had a working session with Benicia Black Lives Matter to figure out how we can best collaborate between the two clubs. And we split up into working groups and tackled different issues. We learned from each other, and we really want to strengthen that bond and work together to address white supremacy in our community. April 13th coming up, we have a Progressive Dems meeting. We will be hearing about the proposed oil well that permit that has been submitted to the Army Corps of Engineers in Sassoon Bay. And our community is really up in arms about this because it's getting rubber stamped. So we're gonna learn from several people on how to take action against this proposed well. And then we're gonna go into working sessions after hearing an in-depth report from Open Vallejo on the grand jury situation on the Solano County Sheriff's Department. And also we have a local recall of our school board members that's Republican driven. 2 of our school trustees are being targeted when it was a unanimous vote throughout the pandemic to keep our schools closed, but they're targeting progressive trustees and we won't tolerate it. And so we're trying to figure out how to take action on both of these issues. And I want to extend through our club coordination club. I want to extend invitations to all of our clubs for this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Rio Vista Democratic Club?
Margie, I had a question for Carrie.
Oh,
The Corps of Engineers, they're going to do a well in the Sassoon Bay. Is that what it is?
They are permitting. It's a private company that wants to open an existing well that's been capped. And so the Trump administration took away all the rules. It doesn't have to go through CEQA. It's being streamlined. And now that we have a new administration and people are waking up to what's happening in our own backyard, we're going to oppose this, and we're putting sunlight on this this proposed permit, and it has no place in a state that's trying to, address climate action.
Right. And the other thing is the fracking that will occur from the wells. And with the oil people there, you guys could have a huge blow up from the fracking, because it causes the pipelines to lose their credibility. And so, yeah, well, I'll call you, Carrie. This is something kind of interesting.
This is something I'm working on personally and professionally, so I'd be happy to share more information.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to ask that question. Bonnie has her hand up. Yeah.
Bonnie?
Yeah, hi. I just wanted to say I will put in the chat the link to the public comment page for the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers around this proposed project in the Sassoon Marsh. They had a short public comment period that ended February 26th, but with certain elected officials have come out, and now the comment period has been extended, I believe, until next Friday, a week from this Friday. So I will put the link in the chat. Anyone can make a comment. I know out of our climate group, there were at least a dozen of our members that wrote letters of opposition to this project, because this is a protected part of the marsh, but it is on private land. So, and so there's money involved, but it will disrupt the habitats. It will certainly bring risks to our protected, beautiful Sassoon Marsh. So again, I'll put the link, and people can get more information from that.
Okay, thank you. And they can attend the Progressive Democrats meeting about that. Rio Vista Democratic Club?
Hi, can you hear me?
Uh-huh.
Oh, okay. Hi, everyone. As reported last month, the Rio Vista Democratic Club planned to introduce a new format to its monthly membership meetings. And so on March 10th, the club had its first Zoom chat, and it was a rousing success. Participants had an opportunity to discuss and share views about many current issues, from COVID to voter suppression. The members also shared specific information regarding special projects and causes in which they were involved or had knowledge of. So until it's safe for us to meet again in person, these meetings will continue to be held on Zoom and serve as a platform of communication and information for our membership. Thank you.
Thank you. Solano Democratic Workers Alliance Club.
Good evening. Good evening. So we last met for our quarterly meeting back in January, and so there was no report submitted this time.
Okay, thank you. United Democrats of Southern Solano.
Good evening, everyone. In the interest of time, our report is what's written.
Okay, thank you. So moving on, Bylaws Committee.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
Stonewall.
Oh, Stonewall. Well, yeah, you're not on the list. Okay, I'm sorry, Stonewall. It's a tradition. At least one off every time. Okay. Stonewall.
Yes, Madam Chair, thank you so much. So Stonewall Democrats, I just wanted to bring to your attention the fact that the Equality Act passed through the House of Representatives. Thank you, Speaker Pelosi. And it had its hearing on the Senate side on the 17th of this month, where it faces opposition due to the Jim Crow filibuster that the Republicans are insistent on maintaining, as well as some of our conservative Dems. And so the Stonewall Club will be writing a letter to both of our senators, and I would like to ask for support from the Central Committee and supporting that letter as well. And I also wanted to bring to the committee's attention that I believe it is Sunday or Saturday. Let me just check my calendar. Saturday is Transgender Day of Visibility. And so I would like us to adjourn and the memory of the many trans folks who have been lost to violence due to hate.
Okay, thank you. All right, moving on. Bylaws Committee.
Oh, okay. So when we vote, you won't have the full text because it's too many characters, but Tom's going to bring up the bylaws and then we'll do each one separately to vote. So the first one,
Can you see my screen?
yeah, can you roll it up a little bit? Yeah, there you go. 3.2, we voted to have dues. And so now if you don't pay your dues, you'll lose your voting rights. And so dues shall be paid annually commencing April 1st and considered late after April 30th. A member who has late dues is considered not in good standing. And then we go into the next part that says, provided what gives you the privileges of membership and if you're not in good standing. So that's 3.2. And if you could put the poll up, the bylaws committee is asking that you support this revision to 3.2.
Lynette, they're all in one poll, but they're separated out.
What's that mean? Can you show us a sample before I go on to the next one? Or if you launch it, you'll have to relaunch it.
Yeah, and
Okay,
I'll have to
don't do it
recreate
then.
it.
Don't do it.
But wait, I can. Let me just show you.
Because it's getting late. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. That works. That's fine.
Yeah, but it's all in one poll.
Okay. So then we're gonna we go back to the thingy.
Yes, ma'am.
So what we did is clarify in 3.2 when dues are due, as well as what it means if you don't pay them. Don Lowry's hands up. Go ahead, Don.
Yeah, I am not comfortable voting on bylaws amendments at the first reading. Therefore, I move that this agenda item be postponed until the next meeting so that we have an opportunity to read them.
Okay, so we're going to do first reading this time, and then what is next? And then this is March. So then we will vote on them in April. Okay, let's go to 3.8.
Excuse me, point of order. I have a point of order. This wasn't on the agenda that we were going to have a first reading of these, and they haven't been reviewed. So I don't think we can even address it tonight for a first reading.
I'm not sure who's speaking, and whoever it is.
This is Michelle.
Hi, Michelle.
Hi.
We told you at the last meeting, whatever last month was, February, that the bylaws committee had met and that they would be bringing forward information at this meeting. So you were noticed last month.
Okay, so if you're bringing forward information, that's one thing, but this is taking a long time. It wasn't sent out for review, and I think it's out of order. That's
okay. So I disagree, and we're going to finish this. So let me make this a report of the bylaws committee, and you all can do whatever you like on it and decide if you want to take it until. So if you're, I'll give my report, and then you guys can have the first reading in April. No, yeah, April, and you can vote on them in May. So this is the report of the bylaws committee. So I'm going on to 3.8. And I'm not sure why you didn't receive a copy of this. I thought Jeanette sent all this jazz out. Okay, 3.8. When the bylaws committee met 2 years ago, Paula noticed that they had put in that what basically is that the officers would hold 4-year terms as opposed to 2-year terms. So we cleaned up the language from being direct to the presidential primary. You can roll on up, Tom. And then, so that was that. So we took that out of 3.8. And then This goes back to when we had to replace Karen's her seat. And so 3.10, the alternate is nominated, but the committee still has to meet to bring it forward. We have to check that district has to meet with the candidate that would the alternate to see if they want it. Sometimes the alternate doesn't want it, they just want to stay as the alternate, and then that committee has to come up with a recommendation to bring forward to the central committee. So we took out deemed and made it a little bit clearer. 4.3, we took out, this is where it is presidential. So it's the primary. So we're only in office for 2 years. And then at the next primary, we elect new officers or re-elect officers. So that clarified 4.3 and 10.2, in an effort to try to clear up how you become a club. We kind of bulleted it out a little bit more that at least 20 members who are Solano County registered Democrats. So we have to know your address, and we to know that you're supposedly registered in Solano County. And the suggestion from the bylaws committee is we have access to PDI, and we can run PDI to see if you're registered. So you might live in Solano County, but you might be registered in another county. And so you would not be qualified as one of their 20 members. Minutes of at least 3 minutes per Robert's rules. And Robert's rules has a minimum of what bylaw should have in it. When it's held, who was there, what consists, what you talked about, the date that occurred, when it began and ended, and what was on your agenda. The filing for the FPPC is pretty clear, and the bylaws of the club is pretty clear. But the 20 members and the Robert's Rules piece were the two kind of clarifying pieces we needed to make sure we're there in an effort to try to clear up where new clubs were having difficulty moving forward. And I think those are all of the recommendations that came out of our meeting. Is that the end, Tom?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. And so the other piece that you need to know is that the bylaws committee received 2 recommendations from the endorsement committee, and we received them from Karen before she passed, and we haven't had a chance to relook at them and see where we would, if we're going to recommend, and if so, where they would go into the bylaws. And we are also waiting for the club committee that is looking at the handbook to see what we need to do to assist them in that effort. So that's a report of the bylaws committee. And then,
Jeanette.
Madam, you know, we can vote. We can say that next month will be the first reading, which would be April, and then May we could vote on those to clarify. There's a hand up.
Jeanette.
Yes, so is there a corresponding standing rule about the dues that says how much they are and things like that? Because we did want to put that in the bylaws.
So the standing rule, and thank you for bringing that. The standing rule, it says that you have to vote every year what that amount is. So there's no dollar amount in there. This year it's $35, but we left the standing rules that annually we would vote to set the dues.
And has that been approved?
I don't know, but we can look at it and make sure that we bring it forward.
I mean, I just didn't know, because usually.
Well, we did when we first initially proposed that.
Yeah, that was in our last bylaw update.
It was in our last bylaw review. Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
we did the standing rule, but we didn't clarify the other stuff in
the other part
bylaw.
about being in good standing and when the time frame occurred.
Okay, and then once these are approved after the next 2 meetings, then we need to incorporate them into our written copies. So, okay.
That's right. So that's, and then Tom, I think you had I think the bylaws, this report came out from Tom a couple of days ago. So it shows you everybody that was there. It was a very productive meeting. And I want to thank Paula for pushing it forward. In January, we were supposed to meet, and the day we were supposed to meet was the same day that the insurrection occurred in DC. And then in February, when we were supposed to meet, was right after Karen. So it's been a tough little time for the bylaws committee, but we got through it, and I think we were very productive. So those are all the people that were at the meeting on Sunday. We met for an hour and got all of this done in an hour. So it was very productive. So that concludes my report. Thank you. It's a little longer than I had anticipated, but there you go.
Oh, thank you, Lynette. Club Coordination Committee, Jeannie and Mona, do you have a update? Okay.
I'm sorry. I was not able to unmute myself. Please forgive me. It took me a little bit longer than I expected. I'm so sorry.
Okay.
We had our meeting on Monday evening. Unfortunately, many of our committee members were not present. We are appreciative of the efforts of Lynette Henley, who made it possible for us to be able to take a look at the document that was from the Contra Costa Central Committee. It is a very detailed document that is broken down into many different topics that when we did our first reading, the members that were at our committee meeting, we realized very quickly that we needed to make sure that we could disseminate this document to the rest of the committee members, and that we probably needed a little bit more information on which areas of that document were the ones that the Club Coordination Committee should be addressing. And so my commitment to the club, or the Club Coordination Committee that evening, was to be in communication with Lynette Henley within a week to get more information on how we could effectively use that document, and then make sure that we were going to be able to coordinate it correctly with the bylaws committee. So Lynette, I see you on my screen. I will be in touch with you to get a little bit more information so that our committee can move forward. So thank you.
News, I'll be on vacation next week, so call me.
I will probably do it tomorrow. Thank you, Lynette. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, Code of Conduct Committee, Leilani and Rhonda, do you have anything new?
Yes, the Code of Conduct Committee wasn't able to meet in February. I did have some personal issues and a couple of deaths in my family. And so I apologize for the committee members that we weren't able to meet, but we will be meeting in the beginning of April, the first Monday of every month.
Okay, thank you. Fundraiser Committee, I think you already gave your report. Well, Leilani, I guess, do you have anything to add about your other committee, Retreat Committee? I guess it's the same.
Actually, we just met this past weekend. So we did make some headway on that, and we're actually going to come to the executive board meeting next month to get some feedback or input from the e-board as to what they'd like to see added to the retreat.
Great.
But we're aiming for something in June before everyone starts going on vacation.
Okay, great. Audit Committee.
Hey there. I'd like to thank our committee members for their work and our help with looking at the documents as they have been coming in this week. And I want to thank River City and our treasurer Morgan Hannigan for working with us to get those documents. We have a meeting scheduled for tomorrow evening at 7 p.m. and we look forward to having a productive meeting. The agenda is with the Secretary Jeanette for anyone who's interested.
Okay, thank you.
And for the headquarters committee?
Yes, well, we've got two. Yeah.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Sorry, I can't raise my hand. Brigitte, do you need I need to set up a Zoom for you. so
I
that we
have a
can-
Zoom.
Well, but we need to record it for part of our records.
Oh yeah, if you want to, I can record it too, but whatever's easiest. I sent out a Zoom invite already. It's on the agenda I made, but if you want to
could, I
do
tell you what,
your
if you could just record it, then send me the link and I'll download the recording
perfect,
and
that'll
put
work.
it in our vault.
Happy to do it. And then just on the headquarters committee, we're meeting on Tuesdays and Saturdays at 7 p.m. on Zoom. We've been working on a lot of voter protection issues for key elections coming up, and as well as current elections like the one that happened in Louisiana. So if anyone is interested in helping out, please let me know and we'll get you signed up.
Okay, thank you. Be sure to send the information.
I'll send
about
the link out and so
Yes.
forth so people can sign up.
Okay.
Look for something from Jeanette.
Thank you. Yes. Okay. I know it's getting late, but we put in the agenda a chance for members to make statements in support of the state party candidates that we've all been hearing from, and each person could have 1 minute. And first, I want to say we have a wealth in the Democratic Party. I'm so pleased with all of these candidates, and I did want to say that I did end up endorsing both of the candidates for regional director, because I think they're both excellent candidates. So you could, the vice chairs, could you call on people who would like to make statements of support?
Paula Bauer, you're recognized.
Oh, thanks. I'll make this really brief since we're like running so late, but I am supporting Delane Easton, Daraka, Larimore Hall, and Betty Yee for state party offices, and Jonathan Cook for Region 2 Director, for all of the reasons that they've all said tonight and previous meetings.
Thank you.
Harry, go ahead.
I second everything that Paula just said.
Anyone else?
Saw Carrie's hand up.
She spoke already.
Oh, okay.
Okay. All right, well.
Sorry, I had my hand up before the time ended. I'm Margie, if you don't mind. I'll be very, very brief.
Yeah.
I support Jonathan for regional director, and it is because we need to make our party a welcoming place for people. And I'm going to refer to it again, and I want us to change some of the very, very improper behaviors that have taken place. Because when we do those improper behaviors, we do not make this a welcoming place for Democrats. We keep people out. We think people are not, that people's voices don't matter. And the Democratic Party has lost many people to the decline to state. And we need to really take that very seriously. So Jonathan, for me, has the ability to include people, to make me feel heard, to make me feel welcomed. And to me, that is what the Democratic Party is all about. Thank you.
Jeanette?
I have been, looking at so many things. I've gotten so many flyers in the mail. I don't have a comment on everyone, but I supported Rusty and I am standing behind Rusty. So I will speak for Rusty and for Betty Yee, and I'm still unsure of the others, but I support Lynette. Jonathan has got great ideas too, but I think Lynette has been stepped in there for regional director. So I'm supporting her right now.
Morgan? Morgan, you're breaking up really bad. Morgan, there's a ton of static.
Oh.
Hello, Morgan, are you there?
Oh, now is it better now?
That's
Much better. Okay, start the time.
No worries. I'm definitely supporting Ms. Henley for Region 2 Director. She's been super supportive and helpful with navigating the party. Even when we've disagreed on a number of votes or different issues, she's always been helpful and she's done her job well. So Jonathan's a great guy, but definitely supporting Ms. Henley for Region 2.
Matthew, sorry, your hand is up.
Yeah, thank you. So I wanted to encourage everybody here to please consider supporting Daraka, and here's why. Daraka for Vice Chair of the Democratic Party of California, and it's because every time that we've talked to somebody here tonight, every time that we talk to these candidates, everybody asks them, there are a suite of reforms that have been put forth by Daraka. Are you going to support these reforms to help decentralize the power of the chair? And I just wanted to give everybody here my 100% honest assurance that if anybody stands behind the suite of reforms that Daraka has proposed, it is Daraka. And you can certainly rely on him to do that. And so with that said, I support those reforms. I think the Democratic Party needs to be a more democratic, small d party. I think we're ready to kind of grow up as a party. I also think that it dignifies people when you empower them and when you share power with them. And I think the sign of a true leader is somebody whose greatest ambition is to see that people are empowered.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I don't see any more hands and raising the chat. I'm gonna look through the screen. Whoever has a camera on. Seeing none, Madam Chair, it's back in your hands. I'm sorry, Leilani, okay, sorry. Now their hands are flying up. Okay, so Michelle Pellegrin, Natalie Hannigan, and then Kathy Carriage.
So I think whoever gets elected, what's really important is that we understand, and I think all of the candidates have talked about it, is that this is a time of real transition for the Democratic Party because basically the country's relying on us. So we are going to have to be open in ways that we have not been open before. And so that's really just, there are certain people I think that'll be better at being able to change. I think those are the people that we should probably look at. I hope other people will look at it that way as well, because this is an important time. That's all. Thanks.
Thank you. Natalie Hannigan.
I was going to make a motion to adjourn, but if we could let Kathy, if she had a question, or but moving forward, if we could make our meetings end at 9:15.
Go ahead, Kathy.
This is going to be very quick. It's about endorsements. I'm speaking for Steve Young, and he would endorse Delane Easton, Daraka, and Jonathan Cook for Regional Director. That's it.
Thank you. And then Carrie, your hand is up and recognized.
Thank you very much. Replying to Natalie's comment, I think that this is part of the democratic process, is hearing everybody that wants to talk. And it is a product of white supremacy that we try to rush things along. So I value hearing the opinions and the thoughts of my fellow Democrats. And so I would not favor a mandatory ending time.
Natalie, I'm sorry, your hand went down. Go ahead, Madam Chair.
Can I respond to that? I'm sorry.
I think, well, 1 minute for candidates is where we are. So.
Okay, Madam Chair, you should not allow crosstalk, so we're going to be back in your hands. Let's just go back to the chair. Madam
So,
Chair.
if there are no more statements for the party candidates.
I move for adjournment.
No, there's more business.
Oh my goodness.
Well, we have 2 resolutions.
Oh, thank you, Jeanette. I thought we were done.
Well, originally that was the end of the agenda, but we do have resolutions. The first one, it comes from the party that they would like every
I move to support the resolution.
I second it.
Launch the poll.
Okay. Is there any discussion? Okay. It's been moved and seconded that we approve the resolution.
Was that Dawn that made the motion?
Yeah, Dawn
Yes.
made it and Lynette seconded it.
Okay, I got the second. I just wasn't sure it was.
This is the state party resolution.
Yes. Call on California Governor Gavin Newsom to apply for, oh no, that's not the one, but it's for us to
okay, we're ready to vote.
Be against the recall. Stop the recall.
Okay, looks like everyone has voted. I'm gonna end polling. Passes 28-1.
Okay, thank you. And we have another resolution Bonnie's going to present. I think everyone has seen it.
Yes, hello. I asked for support of the resolution of our County Central Committee to support the goal of reaching 100% zero emission vehicle sales in California by 2030, and asking that it become part of our California Democratic Party platform or policy. I've sent the resolution, so I'll spare you reading the resolves, but you should have received them. And just to talk a little bit about it, this ambitious but realistic goal of achieving 100% new zero emission vehicle sales in California by 2030 provides one critical path necessary to reduce carbon emissions. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change released a report.
Move the resolution.
Pardon?
Move the resolution.
I you want, I mean,
We have a move and a second.
We have a move and second. Is there discussion? No discussion. We will move to vote on the resolution of the Solano County Democratic Central Committee supporting the goal of 100% zero emission.
Okay, looks like everyone voted. May end it. So it was
Thank you.
100%.
Okay. So the resolution passes. Okay, and there's no old business. I know someone wanted to make an announcement.
I know, but anyone who wants to leave is certainly welcome. I just wanted to let folks know that we meet monthly. The Solano Climate Policy Action Team meet monthly. We're an extension of the Bay Area chapter of the Climate Reality Project. Our next meeting is Monday, April 26th at 7 p.m. And our meetings are open to anyone who has the desire to take local action on the climate crisis to prevent, mitigate, and reverse its effects. And if you would like to be on my email list, please email me at bonnie.hamilton@sbcglobal.net. Also, if anyone is interested in training with former Vice President Al Gore to become a climate reality leader, they can sign up by this Friday, March 26th, for the next free online training. And the training will take place April 22nd to May 2nd. And I'll put the link in the chat for anyone who's interested. But let me know if you're interested in being in our policy action group around local climate change. Thank you very much.
Susan George's hand is up.
Susan, do you have an announcement?
Yes, and I'll be very brief. I'll put this in the form of an announcement. Is that we passed a resolution on the need for justice to prevail in Solano County District Attorney investigations and prosecutions of police use of force incidents. I think it was passed unanimously. I'll frame it as an announcement. It would be great if we could have a status on that, because I don't know if there's been anything done. I could be wrong, but it would be great if the things that we said we were going to do and send it to the district attorney and also sending it to the press, that would be done, because we did pass that in good faith.
Okay, thank you.
I don't see any more. Oh, wait a minute. Tom, is your hand up?
Yes, ma'am.
And then Lynette. Then
So
Lynette.
Lynette, I'm making a motion to adjourn. Is that what you were doing?
No, I was going to remind you that the Region 2 district meeting is this Sunday from 2:30 to 4:30. The link is on the CADEM website. Margie has sent it, I think Margie has sent it out to all the delegates. This is our regular district meeting prior to conventions. I hope to see you there. The two resolutions that were approved through the Central Committee, I hope, Margie, you plan to bring them to the regional meeting to receive additional support there for that. And then Tim, and any legislation that may be going forward, you have until March 31st to submit that online. Resolutions have to be in a certain format for them to be approved by the state. And we have G. Anthony here from our Napa Central Committee. So thank you for being here tonight. And you serve on the rules committee, correct?
Yes, I do.
So if you have any rules that you want to discuss, G. Anthony is your man.
Okay.
So that was my announcement. So just remember 2:30 on Sunday, Region 2 meeting. We will have the candidates again. There'll be an update from staff on the convention. And I think that's it.
Okay, and we are going to be adjourning in memory of Lily Rollins and
also,
yes, you could say.
I would like to make a motion that we adjourn in memory of Lily Rollins, as well as also in honor of the transgender people who have lost their lives just for being who they are, and also in support of Transgender Day of Visibility.
Could I make a friendly amendment?
Yes.
That we also adjourn in the memory of the shooting victims from both Georgia and Colorado.
Okay. I accept. Don, do you accept?
anything to get this over with.
Be kind.
Okay, so has it been moved and seconded that we adjourn? In
I
memory?
believe so, yes. So here you go. I'm not trying to make this drag out. It's just the computer mouse is not working. Okay, am I in polling? Okay, it passed 100%. We're adjourned. Good night.
Night.